Okay, we got a 2009 Buick LaCrosse with the 3800 Series 3 engine, 3.8 liter. This has a coolant leak, and if you look down here at the bypass elbow, you can see a slight leak, ever so slightly. It takes a while for it to get low enough to start getting warm, but we're going to replace those elbows. So basically what we're going to do, we're going to remove the you got two 10mm nuts up here to get this overflow tank out of the way, and we're just going to set it over to the side. We'll remove the belt, we'll get the alternator out of the way, and then remove the tensioner assembly, which is what's got the bypass tubes going into it. First thing I want to do is make sure that there is no pressure on the system. I'm just going to keep my adapter on there because we're going to fill this through that. So I am going to replace the belt also. Normally what I would do is try to keep enough tension on the belt to where I wouldn't undo the belt from the lower pulleys. That would make it easier to put the belt back on. But I'm just going to take the belt completely off. I'll probably snap a picture of it so that I can remember how it goes. That way, if I need to revert back to the picture, I can guarantee I get the belt on right or as easily as possible. So let me get set up, let me get some tools, and we're going to get started on this vehicle. And just real quick, so these are what I ended up buying. These are the replacement elbows, and these are metal. They're aluminum versus the plastic ones. So these should last a lot longer. So that's what we're going to end up putting in. And I'll put a link to these. The cheapest place to buy them is off Amazon. So if you know that yours is leaking and you're going to replace it, if you don't need them that same day, I'd get them from Amazon because they're literally half the price than what I had to pay for these. This guy wants his car fixed today, so I just went to my local auto parts store and bought these. The part number is 47065HP. So let me get set up, we'll get started. Okay, first thing we're going to do is get that overflow bottle out of the way. And it just comes, it's got a little slot that it just fits in right there. So I'm just going to lay it right over here. Not even going to disconnect it, just get it out of my way. We are not going to remove the junction box. I don't see a reason to do that. I've seen other people do it. You can do it if you think it's in your way, but I'm not going to do it because I just don't think it's a problem. But I am going to move the camera if I can, give you guys the best view I possibly can on this deal. So let me get the other thing that I need and we'll get going. Okay, so the tensioner bolt here is a 15mm. Now I'm just going to use my telescoping ratchet, which is my go-to tool for taking tension off of belts so that I can get them off and change them and work on the stuff. And the reason I like that is because you can telescope it out if you've got the room. If you don't, you've got numerous spots to go to make it whatever length you need. I've actually got a video on why I prefer that. So I'm just going to eyeball this belt real quick in the hopes that I can remember how it goes. And like I say, you wouldn't have to take yours completely off. I am, because I'm replacing it. And the reason I'm replacing it, if you ever replace a belt, if you ever wonder if you need to replace a belt, if your belt is cracked, now this one's not too bad, but it does have micro cracks in it. Since I was here anyway, I asked him if he wanted me to go ahead and change it, and he said yes. Anytime I take a belt off, first thing I do is I just make sure that everything that spins on the belt feels and sounds normal, and it does. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to get this alternator out of our way. Now, I would recommend taking the negative battery terminal off, because you don't want to arc the B positive lug here. I'm not going to disconnect. I'm just going to set it to the side, so hopefully we don't see any sparks. But I would recommend removing, disconnecting the battery. Okay, there's a bolt back here. This looks like a, that looks like a 10 millimeter. Let me pop this loose so you can see. So you got this brace, and there's just a nut back here. I'm just going to need to loosen that off so I can pull that up enough to get that alternator off there. Reach right over here to get on it. You don't have to take it all the way off, just need to obviously get it out of your way. Now, because I didn't take the negative cable off, I'm going to be a lot more careful. I guess there's one more bolt we got to get. Let me get an extension. And the size of these are 15 millimeter. And like I was about to say, since I didn't disconnect the battery, I'm going to be extra careful about how I'm going to position that alternator. You need to be aware of where this is at all times. Now, it does have a boot on it, so that's another reason I'm comfortable with it. But if that was exposed and it hit any kind of metal, it's going to have a lot of current, and you're going to get a very rude awakening. So it looks like there's only two bolts. That's all I can see. So let's break those loose and see what happens here. And those are 15 also. I'm going to get a 1 inch extension. Hopefully you can see the bolts I'm getting on. Both these bolts are the same size. So the thing still seems pretty tight, so there may be another bolt I'm not seeing. Let me grab a yeah, there's one right there. Oh, by the way, this is the first time I've done this job, so if you haven't ever done it, this should give you an idea of you know, what it's going to take and what have you. Okay, that bolt, all three of the bolts are the same size. Okay, you can see it's now loose. Now, if you was needing to remove this for some reason, you was going to reuse those, which I wouldn't recommend because they're so cheap, you'd want to be careful not to break them. But let me get my lights out of the way here so that I can... There it is. So there's that one. I may have broke that pulling it out. This one didn't appear to be leaking, but that was not a whole lot of pressure that I put on that, and you can see that that just snapped off like it was nothing. Now this one is the one that was leaking. And it just broke, just trying to get it out of there. See how they get brittle and they just crumble. Now the problem is you got to be careful. You don't want to score up the inside of this where that O-ring surface is, because if you do, then even your new ones may end up leaking. So let me figure out what the easiest way to get these out of here. I know this probably isn't going to work to get this completely out, but we shall give it a try. Okay. Just be careful with that inner surface. If I had a big easy out, that would probably be a good option, but I don't. There we go. You can see the O-ring down in there and the other part of that. And what I think I'm going to do is that right there. And then what I'm going to want to do is clean that up. I'll take some Scotch-Brite and run in there and clean that up. But right now, so this one here also broke off. And there's that one. So the only other part that we need to worry about is down here and right here, which there's pieces in both of them. So I'm going to get something to hold that up out of my way. Should keep that out of the way while I figure out what it's going to take to get these out. There's the O-ring. And again, I'm making sure that I don't touch the metal part. I'm just keeping the screwdriver only on the plastic. I want to reposition the camera so that you guys can see this better. At least I hope you can. Can you see that? Because I can't hardly even see it. So here's all the chunks. Okay, so I've just got some Scotch-Brite here. Just make sure that everything feels good and looks good. This would be a good idea to check your power steering fluid, since it's buried way back here in a ridiculous spot. There's actually remnants of the O-ring still stuck in here. I'm just trying to get all of that out. I can actually feel that old O-ring stuck to the aluminum, but we're getting it. I mean, this isn't a hard job, but I don't want to have to take it back off because it's still leaking. In fact, you can kind of see maybe the orange O-ring. Oh yeah, perfect. Okay. Let that sit there. You do want to lubricate the new ones. You can use some oil, you can use a little bit of grease if you wanted to. I'm just going to use some residual coolant here. Should be just fine. And they only go on one way. One's slightly different than the other. Let me get them out of the box and I'll show you. So you shouldn't be able to get them on wrong. Now, you know, of course, these three ends right here is the same size. But you just got to figure out. It looks like the bottom one down here. Yeah, that's where this big one goes. Now, since we're going to have to push this on this way, you want to install both of these onto the movable spot, or the movable piece, and then we'll push it on and bolt it up. So let me get these kind of lubricated up with some coolant. How much do we have in here? Yeah, I got a new jug. Let me open it up. Okay. That one's lubed up. I'll just save that right there. So let's see, how's this thing bolted on here? So if this goes there, this one here has got to go in down there. So I'm going to put it in here. And I don't know if that needs to go all the way in or not, but This one looks like it's the same either way. So I'm going to push it in about right there. Make sure you guys got a good view of this. And there it is. Take the 3 bolts. Start them all loose first. Don't tighten one of them up yet. Well, I sure hope you guys caught that going in. I just lost my battery, and I don't know where it died at exactly, but I put both the elbows in the tensioner bracket, and then I just slowly guided it in, and it just fell right in. Now I'm putting the bolts in the I put the 3 bolts in the bracket, tighten them up. Now I'm putting the bolts in the alternator. I don't like to tighten anything up until I got all the bolts started. That way you're not loosening stuff back up. Alright. Now for the new belt. Doesn't look like it's going to be too difficult. Going to come down and put it down around the crank and the AC compressor. We'll get a better angle here. Of course, it helps if you can hold tension on it. And I believe it came around this way, didn't it? Is that right? Okay, so I think I've got it on here right. And I normally try to do the alternator last. I route it around everything and then I come up on the alternator. In most cases, that's what seems to work for me. Get this, and then the coolant bottle. Don't forget your 10mm back here. And then, last but not least, is the coolant bottle. And that's it. Now we just got to fill it up. And I want to show you that because I've got a new tool that's going to make this easy to fill up. Okay. So let me get all set up to do that, and we'll go from there.